question I'll ask you, because you brought up the credentials thing, is credentials are basically meant to inform the consumer. And I feel like whether it's we're talking PhDs or we're simply just talking like, oh, I'm a whatever IFBB pro or like have credentials lost their usefulness to the consumer in the fitness space? Or do you still think that the probability is there? And if so, how good of a probability is it?
Good framing. The first thing I want to say, Kassem, is it's an excellent point, just how much science is involved when we don't think of it as science. And I do think that stems from us drawing a very particular circle around what science is. And it's, the recent debate on Twitter about this study. Or why aren't all the scientists talking about the absurdity of this 52 set study? You know, like there's this volume cabal where we don't want to acknowledge the absurdity of it, but well, why didn't you call out that study, but you called out others? And not noticing that I have not called out a single individual study, and we're actually pointing to meta-analyses, and that's what you do. And I don't want to give more press than one study deserves when it's already getting talked about by everybody. Just one example of a misunderstanding and what comes of that, and kind of what you see in the comments section. And I completely agree that credentials are leveraged for those reasons to hopefully give more credibility to a given thing. Credentials, credibility, they probably share some word ideology that I don't know. But I think they've never been a perfect one-to-one proxy for someone's knowledge base. I think so first off, it might be helpful for people to understand that there's like 10 different versions of having a doctorate. There's EDDs, there's DSCs, there's PhDs, and then those differ in every single country and institution on what you have to do. You may have had a Viva or a Defense, you may have not. You may have taken 2 years of methodology classes before you could even get into the doctorate, or maybe you're in the European system and you just had better education first, and then didn't need to do that, and it was a research only degree that you did, and you may have and what does PhD even mean? Most people don't understand it. Every PhD is actually a doctorate in philosophy. What's the topic? And what's the philosophy in? It's in the philosophy of that. So, I mean, credentials themselves have a lot more variance than I think people realize. And they have more to do with saying that this person met all the criteria at the institution that awarded it, which is externally decided upon being able to award this thing. And there you go. And it is only actually the clinical qualifications like RD, like a physiotherapist, like an MD, et cetera, where it is actually intended to go right. And we've decided that you're safe to go out into the world and practice. And I think that there should actually be a much higher level of critique leveled at people with clinical qualifications that are based upon me having a defined scope of practice and going out there and doing that. Anyone with a PhD is someone who has done a really, 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 really deep dive on a given topic. I think as far as understanding the broad sciences, a very good bachelor's student, and probably more so a master's student, is going to have a similar grasp compared to a PhD if you were to control for just time spent in the field. The difference between me and someone who just completed their master's is that I just did that 12 years ago, right? So that means I've just had more time to think about and use these things because I'm also an active learner, assuming we're both active learners. But if that master's student did their master's 12 years ago, but they spent the last 12 years coaching people, reading research and thinking about it, I think when it came to, say, general applications of science to something like exercise or sport, I don't think you can reliably say, well, he has a PhD that's higher than a master's and that's higher than a bachelor's. The reason I give a slight edge to the master's student is mainly because education is behind the times, which is ironic that we're talking about science. And we largely teach memorization, and textbooks are out of date, and we don't teach critical thinking skills. Like if even our methods papers, there's actually research on this, where if you teach someone a graduate level methods course, how science is conducted, like how does an ultrasound work, and then how do we do statistics, p-testing, an adequate sample size, and what's the difference between a crossover versus a case control, et cetera, and which ones can and can't tell us inferences about causation. That actually doesn't inform people about critical thinking, even though it's tangentially related to it. There's a study where they compared a traditional scientific methods class to a logical thinking and critical analysis class, and noticing things like cognitive dissonance, logical fallacies. And they found that the number of students in those two classes who continued to hold untenable beliefs, things that were conflicting, not always necessarily conspiracy theories, but many of the beliefs that are internally illogical, right? That most humans hold on to despite the evidence presented to them, was reduced only in the quote unquote, what I'll call a critical thinking class, but not in the methods class. So that's the reason I give the edge to the master's student, is they start to engage with those things and they are challenged in the thesis or dissertation process and by their advisor once they get to the research portion of their master's, if it has a research portion. And at least to some degree, when they get into the coursework that is specifically designed to help them critically analyze research, rather than just the bachelor student is typically getting, you can't go to Wikipedia only. Okay, here's this thing called PubMed. Here's what a study is. And they go, oh, I didn't even know. And this is a problem which I will talk about in academia. Most bachelor students don't even know that the professors who teach their classes have some time allocated to their 40 hours work of week of doing research. And that the difference between a bachelor's and a master's and a PhD student is that they're creating research, and that's done at universities. We don't even know that as bachelor students. We just know scientists are the ones in that sci-fi movie who wear the white coats and they get paid by the government, and then they're actually doing something nefarious, or they say, hey, we can't do that, and the government shoots them, and then they do it anyway, right? That's our conception of scientists, right? Not they are spending time teaching this undergraduate course, or in reality, their graduate student is teaching the undergraduate course, and then, they're doing research, or in reality, their graduate students doing the research, right? So I don't think people actually understand how science is done, and it doesn't even start to occur until they're at the master's level. And at the bachelor's level, they're typically not given those critical thinking skills. They're kind of just told to accept that these are how things operate. So there's a big disparity between those bachelor's programs. If they actually give you critical thinking skills and challenge you, and they're a little more modern in terms of education, then maybe they are on the same level as a master's. And so long as you stay as a lifelong learner, perhaps I don't think the average personal trainer would benefit from getting a PhD.
If you enjoyed this clip, make sure you check out the full episode, link in the description below.